On today's episode of Big Time, the podcast, season 4, we've got a Van Beater Crusader in the building, former UMFK Bengal in the building, Andy Martin of Van Buren, Maine, on this week's episode of Big Time. Let's go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another round of Big Time, the podcast, season 4 of Big Time. We've got a Crusader, we've got a Bengal, a little bit of both. Van Buren's Andy Martin on Big Time. Andy, what's going on?
Hey, not too much. Thanks for having me.
No problem. I've been trying to get more people outside of Fort Kent. People keep giving me a hard time saying I show Fort Kent way too much love. So this is you're the third Crusader. So this is good. We're showing some love to Van Buren here.
Oh, well, I'm feeling good about it. I'm the third Crusader and the first non-Rossignol.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at total points scored and goals scored by the three of you guys must have quite a bit. We'll just say that.
Definitely. Yeah, don't ask me for numbers because I'm terrible with that. Never kept track.
All right. So we mentioned from Van Buren, went to UMFK, so we'll go back to the beginning. So you're graduating class of 05, right? I think you graduated the same year as me.
Yes.
And grew up in Van Buren, born and raised, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I didn't really get into it too much with Dom and Parise when they came on, but I'm more curious about the people that came up before you. Like, who were some of the guys when you were a youngster, when you were in elementary school, middle school? Who were some of the guys and girls that were kind of going through high school at that point that you looked up to or that were really good? I'm trying to show Van Buren some love here, so I want to put you guys on the spot here. Who were some of the guys that came before you?
Well, off the top of my head, I can think of a few people that I watched pretty closely. Chanel Wright, Mike Sirwa, Erica Yutt. I played with Stacy my freshman year. Nate Markey in basketball, Kurt Castonia basketball. Those are the ones I can think of right now.
Who were when you were growing up, were the Van Buren programs any good at that point?
Yes. We've always been pretty good at soccer. A few state championships. I don't remember the years, but maybe like 93 and 96. That's like prime time, for me. 6 years old, looking up to these guys. Yeah. 9 years old. It goes on, Eastern Maine championships. Always pretty good at that. I do remember one specific game at the auditorium where I watched us play Jonesport. I'm not sure if it was Eastern Maine final or semi, but we lost in a close game. I remember, Chanel Wright playing that game. Probably Nate too. I'm not sure, but a lot of good players and good memories.
Yeah, so I'm curious about this because I feel like the soccer program is probably the most successful program, right, out of all the sports of Van Buren, probably, right?
I think so.
So yeah. Where does it come from? Like, where does the soccer tradition come from? Have you guys always been good in soccer, or is it something that started like with those '90s teams, and that's kind of when things went off and were successful from that point on, or have you guys always been good in soccer?
I think we've always been pretty good, but I don't know when it kicked off. I'd have to walk through the gym to see the banners, yeah. But and the gold balls in the trophy case. A little bragging there, and but really, I think it all stems from our recreation department. I can't imagine doing what I did in athletics without the work that was put in by some of those people. I'm sure there are many other people involved, but one person was Brian Hughes, who coached girls soccer, baseball, and maybe did some basketball too. But we wouldn't be where we are without him, for sure.
That was the perfect segue, because that's where I was going with that. I was going to ask you what youth athletics in Van Buren's like. So you mentioned the rec department. How early do you guys get started out there in Van Buren?
I don't know the exact age, but I was young. I'm pretty sure we had like homemade goals that were smaller like than indoor goals.
Yeah.
I probably up to my chest now. Less than the wingspan wide. And I just remember, running around with shin guards bigger than our legs and, kicking balls and having fun. And then from there, it just developed into a little bit more structure. Um, at least it felt like that from my standpoint. Might have been structured the whole way through from an adult standpoint. But, up until sixth grade, we had night games, championships. I mean, it goes on and on. And there was a lot more people that played in the rec department than that ended up playing, you know, competitively in varsity sports.
Yeah, because I was going to say, obviously, Class D school is a pretty small town. You know, you don't really have the numbers that some of the other schools have once you get to high school. So, was the rec department was all strictly Van Buren kids, all kids from town that just played growing up?
Yep, definitely. We didn't have many teams, maybe four soccer teams, definitely only three baseball teams. Um, I don't remember basketball, but probably three or four. Um, Nothing like Fort Kent has and still has, but we had enough players to, be competitive with each other. It was pretty fun.
So, like in Fort Kent, obviously, you mentioned we have a little bit more kids. We have the university and stuff like that. So, like when I was growing up, it was a lot of either people currently in high school or kids that were from Fort Kent that were in college that were coaching us. And it was kind of cool because they were the kind of people that we looked up to at a young age, and they were our coaches for rec stuff. Out there in Van Buren, same type of deal, or was it more so parents that were the coaches and stuff like that?
Definitely some parents, and definitely at the younger levels. I think that some of the high school guys would coach. I can't remember who coached me, but I remember those guys being around. Probably the guys I mentioned earlier. Just saying, "Hey, get over here and stay out near this line," and trying to get us to do the right stuff at least. From a game standpoint.
This is a question I got to get into here because it comes up a lot. The style of play that Van Buren is known for, kick and boot. Do you want to defend that, or do you want to argue against that? Is not the style you guys play, or where does it come from? Why does everyone say kick and boot when talking about Van Buren?
I'm not sure where it comes from, to be honest, because it's definitely not something that we, practiced.
Right.
Um, yeah, I don't know. It worked out for us.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it did. And we may not have been kick and boot, or we may not have focused on that mainly, but I think that as a team, our skills were a little bit less developed than other teams around.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we would have tried the ticky-tacky stuff, against Madawaska and Fort Kent, it probably wouldn't have worked out good for us. So, for me as a forward, sneaking up behind, barely on sides, some defenders might say the opposite, but and just getting long balls over the top, it worked.
Yeah, so just describe kick and boot for maybe someone who's not familiar with it. Maybe someone listening who never got a chance to play against Van Buren or see Van Buren play. Describe the style for us.
Well, I think that the main thing is just to try to get behind the last defender, and we never, we didn't run, one guy up front. It was, we had three forwards, three mids. Three defenders, well, four with a sweeper, but it's just a flat front, and it just leads to space behind defenders. And I think that a lot of this comes from, some of the fans will say boot it, and I'm not going to name any names, but some people would say that,
Yeah.
and maybe that's where part of it comes from. But it worked.
Yeah.
We didn't necessarily just boot it to nobody,
Yeah.
but we booted it with a plan.
That's like one of the one things I remember when I only went out to Van Buren a couple times for soccer games when Charlie was playing, and I could just remember hearing "Boot It" come from the crowd, and the crowd going crazy every time they would do it. And it just, I was like, I didn't understand it at the time. I didn't know what was going on, but
Well, see, this goes back to what I was saying earlier, where um, our skill set might not have been quite as good or refined. So, especially when you go to Fort Kent and you play Class B school at the time, um, you have to pick your battles and try and get a goal and then defend. And when you're defending, you're booting it. If you're ahead, you're going to just boot it away.
Van Buren soccer, kick and boot soccer. Right? But it's like you said, you guys were successful with it, so that
Yeah,
that's
it worked.
that's your defense. It worked. We won.
Yes.
So you mentioned playing some of the other schools, Fort Kent and Madawaska, and you mentioned the rec department. At what age did you guys start playing some of the other towns? I'm guessing middle school, right? You probably would have played some other teams from Worcester County.
Yeah, I can't remember anything before middle school
Mm-hmm.
for soccer. We played baseball against other teams, other towns. That's probably because of the timing in the summer.
Yep.
Um, but for soccer and basketball, it was definitely actually sorry, basketball. We played Fort Kent. There was round robins all over the place,
Yep.
and we'd get in on that with like a rec all star team. Um, but really, soccer. I don't think we went out of town until middle school.
So you mentioned basketball and all-star teams. I know that we had gone out to Van Buren for a tournament one time. I was probably in sixth grade. Did you guys? Also, something else we always did too was there was a county all-star basketball type tournament that was held in Caribou every year. Did you guys get in on that at all?
Um, if it was in the pit, yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
We did play in that. We played in one, so this might be, I don't know if it's middle school or high school, but we played in one that was in Fort Kent. Catan used to come up.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I remember that.
That's
That
the
that's
high
high
school
school.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the season opening round robin or something.
Oh yeah.
We'd always get smashed. Not
Um,
lying.
yeah. So, talking about middle school now. So, who are some of the kids that you came up with? I remember some names, but who were some of the kids in your age group that you came up with that kind of stuck with you from starting in middle school through high school? I'm guessing a lot of the guys played the same sports. You guys pretty much had, for the most part, probably the same team for soccer, basketball, and baseball.
Yes. Yeah, we were pretty much all three sports athletes. Um, well, in my class, Tyler LaPierre, Dustin Sear, Corey Vick. Tyler was the player of the year our senior year in soccer. Class D player of the year. Other guys, older guys, Mike Corbin, Stacy Ayat, Tyler Hughes, Trevor Hughes, Dom Ross. Um, I mean, I can keep going if you just give me more time. Matt Gaio,
Yeah.
who actually lives in Fort Kent now. Um, I mean, all those guys, we all played soccer. We all played basketball, and some of us played baseball. Baseball was a little harder to get in a full team. If you've ever watched any of our games, we'd have, one on the bench maybe.
Just enough to fill the team.
Yep.
That's all that matters. Though, just enough to fill the team.
Yes.
So prior to high school, were you going to any summer camps, like soccer camps, basketball camps, anything like that, or were you pretty much just sticking in Van Buren in the summertime?
I went to Dutch a couple times.
Yeah.
So I learned some fundamentals from that. That was for soccer. Other than that, really, I didn't do any soccer camps. And I went to Tiger basketball camp
Oh
many
yeah.
times.
Great camp.
Yep. Pine Tree basketball camp many times.
Yeah.
That was my favorite. And other than that, I never did any camps for baseball. It was just mostly basketball for me.
Yeah. I think basketball camps are probably the best camps in the state of Maine in the summertime.
Yep.
Just it's like you said, Tiger camp for the county kids, and then Pine Tree camp, and a bunch of others too if you wanted to go. But yeah, summer basketball camps were a good time. Uh,
Definitely. You know what sucks about them though?
what's that?
You got to play soccer in between.
Oh, true.
It's not a diss on soccer, but you refine your skills and then you don't shoot a basketball for you know 3 months.
Yeah, it's true.
It's tough.
Yeah. The Dutch soccer camp. Did you come to Fort Kent for that, or did it actually go out there?
I think it came to Van Buren. Maybe I went in Caribou a couple times.
Mm.
Mark Rosendahl might even had something at his house before, at his field.
What's the
But
field called?
oh my
Is
God,
it
is it
Field of Dreams or something like that?
I think it's Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
Yep, no doubt it is too.
So let's get into high school here. So I'm guessing going into freshman year, it wasn't tough to make the varsity team. I'm guessing everyone made the varsity team for soccer.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, didn't want to interrupt, but I think I think everybody did. I might have considered them tryouts because you're trying to get on the starting squad.
Yeah.
So even as a freshman, that's your goal. I didn't. I probably started a couple games that year, but not regular. But yeah, so summer practice running. I'm sure you if you've been to Van Buren at the soccer fields, you know the hill in between the lower field and the higher field.
Yep.
Well, we'd run that hill in the summer for workouts. It's the worst time of your life, but not as bad as running the Skeeto.
Yeah, that's a great workout. That's a fun workout right there.
Yeah, it's a good view at the top.
Exactly. Who was the coach?
Steve Lapierre. He was my coach.
Is he a Van Buren legend, like coaching legend?
He is the legend.
Okay, so he's probably coached for a very long time, I'm guessing.
Yeah, he's been there for several years, and back to that '93 year. I think it was '93, maybe '91. He was coach that year too. So any of the state championships in the '90s and on, and any other Eastern Maine championships, he was involved in. So he has a lot of experience with that.
How would you describe his coaching style?
He liked to yell. I didn't have the opportunity to have too many coaches because he coached basketball as well.
Right.
But not every year, but still, he liked to yell a lot. But he got the job done, and we all respected him. So.
What were some of these preseason workouts and practices? Like you mentioned, having to run the hill.
Yeah.
I'm guessing he was intense. I'm guessing he was an intense guy.
Yeah. Well, during practice, pretty calm. And when you get into the games, he gets into the game just like us. And I think personally about my intensity, and he probably matches that. So.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else do you want to know about our practices.
Oh, I was just curious if he was the type to just light you guys up and just make you run, or were practices. You mentioned kind of the style of play you guys played out there. So, were practices more about conditioning, or were they more about skill work, or what was that like?
A lot of conditioning at the beginning. I mean, we wouldn't dedicate a whole practice to conditioning, but I mean, we were expected to work hard the whole time, and if we didn't, then we'd run laps and stuff. And nobody wants to run laps. And we'd run a thing called ALS, which I think comes from maybe his brother or something that didn't like this drill. But you start on the end line, you sprint to midfield, you jog to the end line around the goal, sprint back to midfield, jog around the goal again, and then sprint all the way down and back. So you can imagine that's it's a ways, and it's probably the worst running drill of all time.
Especially late August in Maine too, just hot and humid and sticky.
Yep.
Doing a lot of that. Yeah. All
Yeah, it
right.
was a lot easier potato harvest.
Yeah. So you came in as a freshman, didn't initially start. What kind of team did you come into as a freshman? Were you guys stacked?
We had a good team, solid team. I can't remember our record, but I think we were probably in second or third place, Class D on the East, and we made it to states. So we did all right.
It's not a bad little first experience of high school soccer, making it to states right there.
Yeah, it's disappointing to lose in states, but um, it was great to win Eastern Maine and every other game that we did win. But we had, I swear, the battles that we had were against Madawaska, Fort Kent, maybe Fort Fairfield sometimes, and we just battle it out.
You mentioned Fort Kent being a Class B school. Obviously, you guys were Class D. Can you explain to the listeners out there what that means as a Class D school to play against a Class B school?
Well, when you win, it earns some bragging rights. When you lose, you feel less bad about it. Because technically you should beat us.
Right.
And once in a while we'd pull something out of our hat, but it didn't happen that often. But when we'd play against Fort Kent, you'd always notice a little bit of an edge that you guys would have on us athletically, and
Okay.
that really started. And I tell people this sometimes. That really, and when we were talking about middle school and earlier, we'd beat you in basketball then. I remember, a tournament where I we beat you, won the championship, but then once you make that change to high school, like you guys are all grown up and we're just kids still. That's what I get from it.
Right.
That's what I remember.
What were so I'm guessing the Madtown Fort Kent games were probably the ones you look forward to most on the schedule every year.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and Madtown is our rival just as much as your guys's.
Yeah. So and then also explain to me, you guys didn't have lights on your soccer field, right?
Not on the boys one. We did on the lower one, and I don't remember what year that started, but maybe sophomore year.
So explain to the listeners out there what it was like to roll into Madtown or to roll into Fort Kent and play a night game under the lights. What were those like? What was that environment like?
It was great. Yeah, no, there's nothing like playing under the lights. It's the best experience. Um, Number one, it's cooler. There's no sun to contend with,
Yeah.
except for maybe at the beginning of the game sometimes. But it's just great. The crowds are usually a little bit bigger because people are out of work and everybody's there. Uh, it's just great. Yeah,
I'm guessing.
they were always my favorite.
I'm guessing though for Van Buren home games, if it was a game after school, before the sun went down, you guys still had your fans showing out in full force for home games, though, right?
No doubt. Yeah, there's always there was always a good group and a loud one.
Yeah, I was going to
Loud
say
group.
that's. I think Van Buren has that reputation for just having a rowdy, ruckus crowd, especially at soccer games. Just you'd hear things from the crowd, they'd say things, and they were into it.
Yeah, and being the intense person I am when I'm on the court or the field, that drove me.
I bet.
It really pushed me.
So who were some of the other teams you guys had on the schedule? So I'm guessing besides Fort Kent, it was pretty much a Class D schedule, right? Maybe a couple Class C games sprinkled in there as well.
No other Class C, I don't think. Well, unless Limestone might have been a Class C at one point.
Yeah.
So Limestone, Fort Fairfield, Mars Hill, um, Wisdom. That's really it.
Yeah.
We never played Caribou. They
So
had a harvest. They had a harvest tournament for soccer that we'd play once in a while, but that was it.
So you guys must be probably the premier Class D soccer program in the county, I would think then, because obviously like Prescott's got a good program, Caribou's got a good program, Fort Kent has a good program, Madawaska, but I can't really think of too many other Class D programs that are consistently good every year.
We definitely used to be. uh, Things changed a little bit in the town. There's a lot less kids now, but you know, back in my time, and even like 4 to 8 years after me, there was always good teams.
Yeah.
We were always contending for championships.
So you mentioned you guys made a run to states your freshman year. What did you guys do your sophomore year? And I'm guessing sophomore year you started getting a lot more playing time, started scoring some goals coming into your own as a sophomore.
Yes. Like I said earlier, I can't come up with any numbers on goals, but I probably had a few here and there my sophomore year. And again, that year we made it to the state championship. That year we also, for the Eastern Maine Championship, we played at home on an iced field because we had gotten, like a foot of snow.
Yep.
They plowed the field, turned to pure ice. I think we played shed or something, and won an Eastern Maine Championship on that. It was pretty great.
You remember who you played in the States?
And then we played in the States, Hamden, and lost. I think 1-0 that year.
Who'd you guys play?
We played Waynfleet Academy
yep.
out of Portland.
Yep.
I think they're Class B now, maybe C. And we also, freshman year, we played them as well.
So I've talked about this with other people too who, they made the state championship game a couple times, and they were able to take care of business in Eastern Maine, but whenever they played a Western Maine or a Southern Maine team, they'd struggle just because of different style of play and stuff like that. Was there like a style difference or just maybe a talent gap? I mean, you talk about a Waynfleet team that's based out of Portland. Was that something you guys ran into?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So one of our main contenders in the East was always Bangor Christian Academy, and they had a different style, but we had their number. We could beat them, but whenever we faced Waynfleet, they had the same style, but they were just a little bit stronger and a little bit better.
Yep.
We'd hang in there, but they were a better skilled team.
So 2 years, 2 losses in the state championship. Is there a happy ending for you guys here on the side?
There is going to be a happy ending.
Right. We're not there yet. We're not there yet, though. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll jump ahead here to junior and senior year, and we'll come back to basketball afterwards. But talk to me about some of the rivalries here with Fort Kent and Madawaska. Who were some of the guys you battled against junior and senior year from Madtown and Fort Kent?
Well, starting Madawaska, Miles Morneau,
yep.
Mike Arnold. Those are the two main guys that we keyed on. And I can't remember for the life of me any other names, but there's other people out there. Yeah. And, the Roy kids, I always enjoyed going to Madawaska and playing against those guys and beating them sometimes. It was great. In Fort Kent, for soccer, the one guy that I always remember was Carson.
Yeah.
Because
speedster.
He was a handful. Yeah, he was a handful on the wing, and I, especially early on, I play on the wings, midfield, and so I had to cover him on occasion, and that's not fun because he can run forever and fast.
Yeah.
And Derek Plord, Ethan. I don't know any more names.
JJ Panet's probably in there.
I don't remember that name. Matt Rossinall, I remember that name. Probably because of the Matt Rossinall from Van Buren, and so it just stuck with me.
Easy connection right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, is the happy ending your junior year or was it senior year?
Junior year, we lost in the Eastern semis to Machias.
That's a feel like a very early out for you guys.
Yeah, it was. It was a heartbreaker. We lost in overtime. I think we were down 1-0 most of the game, and I may have scored. I think I scored the tying goal, and then we lost in OT, and that's a killer.
Heartbreak.
because after you've been to state 2 years in a row, you want to go back again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And luckily for you, it sounded like senior year you guys did.
Senior year, we pulled it out. Senior year, uh, things just fell into place for us. We actually lost our goalkeeper at potato harvest. Uh,
Was it a potato harvest injury?
it was a potato harvest injury.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
yeah. It was. He was actually working the same place I was, and he jumped out of the truck he was driving and busted his ankle,
Oh,
broke it. So he was out. So we ended up with a freshman goalkeeper, Andrew Taylor, and I mean he came up clutch and made some nasty saves. Uh, Probably the most impressive thing was at Lee Academy in the semis. We got into a double overtime game, went to PKs, and he made a couple clutch saves after. And I'll add to make everybody happy that I hit the post on the first shot in PKs, and it did not go in. So I thought we were doomed, but he made some nasty saves, and we came up with a W.
all right.
Went on to win Eastern Maine 2-1. I remember these games pretty good. And then to states where we played Wayne Fleet again, and we beat them 2-1.
Wow.
Yep, we were down 1-0 most of the game, and about 12 minutes left to go. I think Dom Ross found me sneaking up behind the defense, just like we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up with a breakaway and passed it by the keeper, went in. 2 minutes later, the same exact thing happened. And I think it was Riley Lizotte, not Dom this time. But he found me, making a run, and I put it in the net. So we were up 2-1 with 10 minutes to go, and we played Boot It. And we won.
There you go.
Yeah.
So for all the naysayers who say you can't win playing kick and boot, you guys just smashed that whole argument right there.
We did, at least for Class D ball.
Brought the gold ball home. What was the celebration like in Van Buren? You guys get the fire truck escort and all that stuff into town?
We did. We got the fire truck escort. We might even had it after Eastern Mains because they happened to be in town. So
Yeah.
it was like right after the game. We'd go around in the bus and stuff. Coming home from state, though, it's a little different because you get home at like 9 o'clock and you kind of go through town screaming at houses with, the lights closed and stuff.
Yeah.
But still fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Passing around the gold ball on the bus. It was great.
Forever a champion, forever a legend in Van Buren's athletic halls. So let's transition then to basketball. I'm guessing not the same level of success on the basketball court as the soccer field during your time.
Correct. Yeah, definitely. For basketball, we had tryouts, and some people didn't make the team. But even with that, I mean, you got less players on the court. But even with that, I think we found it a little bit harder to just put games together.
Yeah.
We once in a while we'd get lucky or not lucky, but we just put a game together, all of us, and came up with some wins. We beat Fort Kent on occasion. We beat Madawaska. Madawaska and us, we went back and forth, and we won elsewhere, but just I don't think we could compete very well with the the bigger teams. You guys, you had Mitch. We can't. I mean, we couldn't guard that. I mean, he's just huge, and you guys out on the wings. It's just, no. And then before, so I can't even remember any names from when my early like freshman sophomore years.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really play that much, so it's JV. I played JV. I was swinging and stuff, but yeah, I mean, it was tough. We had one good year. One really good year where we had a German exchange student that was like, he might have been 7 feet even.
I remember this.
Yeah, and we were first place pretty much. I think it might have been sophomore year, sophomore or junior year. I don't remember. But we were first place in D East, and we got stunned by Mars Hill, buzzer beater at the auditorium in the
Oof.
first round. Yep,
Mars Hill. Yeah, so speaking of Mars Hill, when it comes to Class D basketball, a lot more competitive, I think, in the county than Class D soccer. I think
absolutely.
there's
Yeah,
a
they're
ton of great
powerhouse.
Class D programs all throughout the county. So you guys played against a lot of really good teams during your time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Mars Hill was the team to beat in basketball. There's no doubt about that. For Class D, I can't say anything, bad about their teams. They worked so hard and
Yeah.
they just made shots. Like they just beat people down.
Who were some of the?
But we should have had their number that year, and I think we went into the fourth quarter with like a 15-point lead and tried to ice it, um, and it didn't work out for us.
And this was when games were still being played at the auditorium. So tell us your Bangor auditorium experience, because in soccer, obviously, up until the state championship game, playoff games are played at the higher seats, so you actually get home games. But for basketball, you get to actually go to the auditorium. So what was your auditorium experience like?
Well, I never won a game there, so that part of it was terrible. But honestly, there was nothing like playing in that building. That was the mecca. I mean, really. Uh, I as a kid, I'm watching games there, and I always thought, man, it'd be nice to play here. It'd be great. Um, you're always thinking about, you're practicing when you're young. 3, 2, 1 for the championship. Taking shots and stuff. Uh, that's what you dream of. It was great.
And I'm guessing the Van Buren fans travel well to tournament games.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're loud, just as loud as anyone else. The one Class D town that has more fans for basketball is Mars Hill. They'll fill up the bottom section and maybe that half of that second one,
Yeah.
which is quite a bit. And so the loudest I've ever heard of anything in my entire life, athletic life, is when they beat us on that buzzer beater.
I can
The
imagine.
place went absolutely nuts. Um, and we were on the losing side of it, but it was pretty impressive.
Yeah. There's one thing I want to talk about during that happened during your basketball career. I'm guessing probably your senior year. You guys had somebody that transferred from Van Buren to Madawaska. One Dom Rosendahl. What was it like? What was it like when Dom came back to Van Buren for that first game in Van Buren after he transferred? I'm guessing you guys were pretty fired up and wanted to beat him.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, anytime Madawaska comes in, we want to beat them, but Dom made his decision, and we all respected that, but definitely, definitely wanted to beat them even more.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's not really necessarily just because of him. Just the Madawaska rivalries, you can't beat it.
And they were good too. They had Campbell. They had the Sirois twins, and they had
Miles,
Miles. Yeah, they were good.
yeah, absolutely.
Did you guys
Oh
beat them?
yeah. Um, I don't know. I don't know if we beat them. We might have gotten one out of two.
Yeah.
I think we might have beaten them at home. They took it, and one of the other. Actually, I never brought them up, but the other team that we always had battles with was Washburn,
Yeah.
especially in basketball.
That's another place with a rowdy little home crowd who gets into it, says some
Absolutely.
things.
Yeah, and we always went their homecoming weekend.
Yep.
So, the place was packed solid. There's not many seats in there, but it was packed solid and loud. So there was nothing better than winning a game over there that night. And we did a couple times.
So, what was the highlight of your basketball career? Just getting to Bangor?
Getting to Bangor is definitely the number one team-related highlight. My number one highlight was dunking at Wisdom.
Oh,
Yeah, Uh, we don't have it on video. Nobody has it on video, but it happened. And everybody was looking at each other like, what did he just do? I'm only 5'9", but I did it. So that's my personal highlight from basketball.
It's not a bad one.
Yeah.
Not too many people can say they had an in-game dunk.
Yeah, it was great.
So after high school, continued your education and athletic career at the University of Maine at Fort Kent.
Yeah, and that's an interesting story too because I wasn't going to play. I didn't. I don't know if I got recruited, but I had discussions with Mike Arnold, and he was convincing me to play, but I decided not to do it. And probably a few weeks in, they were probably 4 or 5 days into their preseason, and he gave me a call, and he was like, "Man, just come give it a shot, and move into your room and do whatever. Just come for a few days." And he convinced me to do it, and probably the best decision I made. I don't know what I would have done without all the team camaraderie, just knowing people in a town you're not from, even though we're just an hour away. Best decision by far.
So your first year probably was, well, you kind of came in at that transition period, right? Where Malik stepped down as the head coach, and it was kind of in between before Ashby took over, I'm guessing, right? It was kind of that in between period.
We had Coach Murphy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So kind of like a transition time, though, right? Because different coach. It was kind of before things got rolling with Ashby, but you guys were still competitive, right?
We were. Yeah, we were definitely competitive. I was less so personally. My skill set wasn't refined enough. And, this is nothing against Derek Plord, but we talk about it. He played in the field before I did.
Yeah,
in some games. So, so that's crazy. Derek's great, but he's a good goalkeeper. But I wasn't at that point yet, and also I think that coming in late probably hurt my chances to get playing time.
Yep.
But that's just the way it was, and I worked hard just the same, and I think I scored 2 goals freshman year, and I was pretty happy about that. So it was nice to get the monkey off my back because and in high school senior year I had 20 plus or something, and I just wasn't scoring in college, so it's tough. Big transition.
But I'm guessing you got more playing time as the years went on. You guys got better. You guys wound up having some really good teams while you were there.
Absolutely, yeah. My sophomore year, I started striker, and I think I scored 17 goals, several assists. We made it to nationals, I think. No, sorry, we didn't. We went to regionals in Ohio, and we ended up losing over there to a really good team. But that was a building year. I think Coach Ashby, was working on getting his players in, and but we worked hard, and it showed.
What was the highlight of your college career?
The highlight. So the one I wouldn't say it's a highlight because they called the back offsides, and I wasn't offsides. There's no way. But I had a diving header in a playoff game at Deering High School, and they called it offsides. Rob Rochester threw on a cross, and I just dove and headed it in, and it was great. So that's like my personal highlight. But overall with the team was going to nationals and competing over there. There was nothing like it. We felt like we were doing something that hadn't been done before. Maybe it had, but it sort of felt like it anyway. And it was great.
So obviously a little bit of a talent gap going from Class D high school main soccer to, people may say, oh, it's just UMFK, but you guys had some really good teams, and it was a talent gap. Who was probably the most talented guy or guys that you played with during your time at UMFK? Because there was a bunch of good guys that came through during that time.
Probably the most talented ball handler was Sean Platt, um, and overall, I mean, I there's so many people. Emlyn Jacoby, Donnie. Donnie was like one of my favorite guys. He's just as intense as me. I mean, you can't you can't beat Donnie out there on that intensity level. Um, but really, I think that Sean Platt was the most skilled soccer player on our team. That's what I thought from in the early years
Yeah,
because he was done a couple of years before me. I don't remember what year he graduated, but I'd say it was him. But
lot of
you
good
know,
guys, a lot of good guys that came through.
oh my god! I mean, I could just go on and name every guy. I mean, we had talented players coming from everywhere. I mean, we had people coming from Jamaica, South Africa. Um, we didn't have any Canadians at the time, but a couple people from home and downstate. We just had good players.
You mentioned the camaraderie thing. I'm guessing you guys were tight on and off the field and did a lot of hanging out off the field as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, especially during season, preseason. We'd get together. We have spaghetti dinners night before games, stuff like that. And most of us hung out on a regular basis. So uh, when you build that camaraderie, you can communicate a lot better with each other on the field.
I know, like a lot of kids too, like from the valley, when it comes time to pick a college and stuff like that, they want to kind of get out of the valley, go down state, go to UMaine, go to USM, stuff like that. And then, when you say, oh, I'm going to UMFK, they may be like, oh, that's too bad and stuff like that. But how would you describe your college experience and, not maybe not so much the classes and stuff like that, but just like the hanging out with people and the after school life and the hanging out life in Fort Kent?
Well, it was excellent. I mean, I can't. It was great, everything about it. But like I said earlier, I don't. I'm a pretty shy guy overall, so it takes me some time to get in with people. And I don't think if I would not have played soccer, I wouldn't have been out as much with other people, and especially being as close to home as I was.
Right.
I could have easily just drove back home and hung out with my high school friends. But that didn't happen quite as much just because, you get, 25 players on a soccer team that all want to hang out and, play ping pong and, shoot basketball or whatever we did. I mean, we did everything
And
together.
and you mentioned just all the different guys from all parts of the world and just the different culture and, it's a unique experience going to UMFK. I'll just say that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting situations sometimes when you get when you have different cultures, but in the locker room's a fun place to be, and you learn a lot from other people. I mean, we
Absolutely.
had Spanish guys. I didn't even mention any of those guys. Noe, Jaime. Um, those are they're great players, and we learned a lot from each other.
Also at UMFK, you met your future wife at UMFK, right?
Absolutely, yeah. She was on the women's soccer team, and I'm not going to go through our entire love story, but yeah, we met and talked on the bus, and I mean if you've been to UMFK and you played sports at UMFK, you know what long bus drives are
Oh yeah.
because other than Umpy, your closest game's like Vermont, so it's a long way, and there's a lot of time to hang out with people, and yeah, that's how we met, and we haven't turned back since.
Yeah, and we would be talking about the former Mrs. Neely Lozier, now Neely Martin, and you guys have now settled down in the Bangor area, right?
Yes, yeah, we're in Herman.
Herman, Maine, both working in the area.
Yep, both work for Northern Light Health.
Got a little family.
Yeah, we got one son, Grant. He's 15 months. Love him to death.
You got to owe it all to UMFK.
I do have to give credit to UMFK for all of that.
All right.
Absolutely.
So,
Credit where credit's due.
Absolutely. You got to do it. You got to do it.
If you're looking for the hard-hitting journalistic questions, you're in the wrong place. It's Ethan Asks Big Time Questions on Big Time, the podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, going to get to Ethan Asks Big Time Questions on Big Time, the podcast. Ethan, what is your first question?
Back again with Ethan Asks Big Time Questions. Andy, as husband to a Wallagrass pirate, natural born winners, has any of that pirate intensity rubbed off on you?
Oh my God, absolutely. I mean, without Neely, I couldn't have done what I did at UMFK.
There you go.
Mean, she's as intense as it gets, and she's a winner.
Absolutely, and it's like Ethan said, she's Wallagrass royalty. You married a very big time family out there in Wallagrass, so smart move to unite the houses of Martin and Lozier right there. All right, gonna get to our second question from Ethan on Ethan Asks Big Time Questions.
What is the backstory of Mathieu? I remember, especially in soccer, playing against you guys in Van Buren. I swear to God, his family cheered louder than any family that has ever been to a soccer game. It was just, every time he touched the ball, go Mathieu! Kick it harder! Kick it higher, Mathieu! What is his backstory? I need to know more.
Well, that family is passionate about sports, and they are very loud, and they don't hold back when it comes to cheering for their family. And honestly, I'm not sure. I mean, it's just the French word for Matthew, but I wonder if there is more to that story.
Who is he referring to?
I think Matt Gagnon.
Okay. Great question. Ethan always asks the hard-hitting questions
Oh my
Big
God,
Time.
that's tough.
Yeah. All right, going to get to our last round of Ethan Asks Big Time Questions on Big Time, the podcast. Ethan, what is your question?
You grew up in Van Buren, went to school at UMFK, so you've had a chance to tour the whole valley for food. I'm going to give you 3 options for dinner. You got to choose one. Van Buren Tasty Food, Madawaska Tasty Freeze, or Rock's Diner. Keep in mind, Rock's Diner is a sponsor of the show, so choose wisely.
Rock's Diner.
Without question, or are you just saying that?
No, without question.
Really?
Yeah, represent Rock's Diner.
What's your go-to at Rock's Diner?
I mean, if you really want to know, cheeseburger, hot dog, and a mix.
Yeah.
Or a poutine.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing else compares to it right there. Great answer.
I hope everyone had a good time, because things are going to get serious for a moment. It's time to talk death on Big Time, the podcast.
All right, so we're getting to the end here. It's time for our serious segment of the show. It's called When You Die, what jersey do you want to be buried in? So which jersey means the most to you? Which one would you take to the grave with you?
Oh my God, that's tough, man.
Yep.
I mean, can we sew half and half? I got to go with my Van Buren senior year jersey because we won state championship. I mean, you can't beat that. I have to go with it. UMFK is, close second place.
It's tough to beat.
Bengal pride.
It's tough to beat a state championship jersey. So, and actually, can we clear up one thing? What color is Van Buren? Are you guys a navy blue or like a royal blue, or which blue is it?
I think it's royal blue. Okay. Royal blue and gold.
Okay. I could never. I've been trying to put together these graphics and stuff with that, and I can't figure out what color blue you guys were.
Yeah, I'm almost certain it's royal.
Now I know. Now I know for future reference.
From the land of Donair and Poutine, it's time to sort fact from fiction. Live on location, it's Charlito Wonders. On Big Time, the podcast.
All right, going to get to our other segment of the show, Charlito Wonders on Big Time. Big Bro Charles, take it away.
Yo, what up, Andy? It's Charlito out here in Halifax. Yo, I've always wondered the legend of Steve LaPierre, man. We used to go out to Van Buren and play some games. That guy was intense. Was he a big teddy bear in the sidelines, or was he hardcore all the time, like we noticed during game time? How about a couple good stories of his coaching antics, huh? Take care, my dude, and thanks for dropping in.
Hey, thanks for the question. Honestly, I actually alluded to it earlier, but he was tough. He was tough all the time. He was just, hard on us. He didn't like mistakes, and definitely didn't like mistakes happening more than once. But we all respected him, and I would definitely say not a teddy bear, but one of my best friends, Tyler's father. So, I spent time with and around him, off the court and field, and he's calm. He doesn't take that home.
There you go. Charlito coming through asking the big time questions. All right. Before we get up out of here, Andy, is there anything you want to say? Is there any breaking news you want to give us? Is there any controversies you want to clear up? Is there anything you want to say before we get up out of here?
Oh my God. You might have to edit this. I don't, I want to say thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
And, I love what you guys are doing here, what you're doing here. And also I want to, give you props for your Photoshop skills.
Oh, thank you. You're the first to say that. I appreciate that.
It's truly impressive. And I know how hard it is. So it's great. I do want to say and defend the Van Buren boot and run.
Okay.
As it's not really a boot and run. It's just getting behind defenders and making runs.
We'll have to do a whole a documentary series about Van Buren soccer and just get a bunch of people on and dive into it, and you guys can clear it all up. You guys can defend yourselves.
Yeah, okay.
That's going to do it for this week's episode of Big Time, the podcast with Van Buren's Andy Martin. Andy, thank you for coming on. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure to check out all of our previous episodes up there on iTunes, up there on Spotify, up there on YouTube. Also got the YouTube Big Time Classics, which Andy's in at least one of those. There may be a couple more coming with Andy in there. So make sure you're checking that out. But that's it for this week's episode. We will see you next time.